Yeah.
We have an epidemic of children from poverty being tracked into special education class because they don't know middle class words and middle class sentence structure and middle class vocabulary. I said ain't every other word. I didn't know when to say gone or went or how people know when to say seen or saw. I didn't know I wasn't speaking middle class sentence structure, but I knew my whole life that people couldn't hear me. And the
Right.
kinds of schools that we went to were those schools where your teachers are underprepared very often. Your luxury to actually to let all the noise of poverty stop. Poverty doesn't stop at the door. So you've got,
Right.
dang, our lights are going to be shut off tonight. My mom's crying because we've got an eviction notice. My dad, he's worked 12 hours and we still can't pay the rent. That noise all comes in with you. So if we're not taking a whole child, whole family, comprehensive poverty informed approach, literacy is a luxury. My teachers would just send me to the dictionary to go look the words up. Well, learning theory says you don't learn vocabulary that way. You have to be able
Right.
to dialogue with someone who knows that word, who can use examples and make it relevant and put it in context so that you can move it from short-term memory to long-term memory. And I think a lot of that is a big gap in the schools is middle class examples are used to explain things. Well, everybody knows this. Everybody's been here. No, we haven't. No, we
Right.
haven't. So getting at making the information that we're sharing relevant, actually removing those poverty barriers that get in
Yes.
the way of actually being able to think about reading, those are really critical pieces. When I got to University of Portland, I met Dr. Bob Fulford, and he was the founder of the communication department, founder of the journalism department. And he said to me, I'd like to help you learn a second language. And I'm like, what? I'm 28. I'm like on welfare with 2 kids, second language not in my cards. And he said, no, Donna, you see, when middle class people speak, they use a very specific sentence structure. They use vocabulary that they have heard since they were in the womb, that by people who know those words and can contextualize them. And he said, if you're not around people who can do that and you're not exposed to it, you're not going to know it. He said, you communicate beautifully, but let me give you the language that will help you in education and the work world. So I tell people I'm bilingual. I speak fluent middle-class language. And he also told me, be careful because if you get tired, your grammar can revert. So I was selected to be a Princeton Fellow, and they were sending me to privileged universities to train. And if you Google my name and Wingate, you will hear me say Worcester on stage. And yesterday I was tired. I've been doing back-to-back trainings, and I said, is Kaz and Saphira blah, blah? And my son was like, is? Didn't you mean are, Mom? It's absolutely true. My grammar will revert to my natural sentence structure if I'm tired. I have to really translate. But I had to have somebody who was willing to take time. Dr. Bob Fulford, later told me that he got a lot of flack from colleagues who said, it's not your job to teach a junior in college not to say ain't. But well, but he would say, I would just ask him, did I achieve my goals as I finished my bachelor's, got my master's, and finished my doctoral coursework? And then he would say, and then some. Every single human being can make a difference. To see people differently. When people come to my institutes, they tell me, I see people differently. I hear people differently. I talk to people differently. Because you have a paradigm shift when you get informed. So I think what you've captured in the sentenced film, which I love, is the humanity and the true barriers that people face. You treated people with dignity and respect, and you really let their voices be heard. about what does their world look and feel like? And that's the power of that film. It is people who have been impacted by that evil villain poverty who were able to share. I'm just a person. This is what my life looks and feels like. And these are the impacts of not having opportunities. And you can see in so many of the characters portrayed in the film, they're smart people. They're really, really smart people. Poverty's not an IQ thing. Uh, I'm not smarter than anyone else. I'm not better than anyone else who lives in that crisis of poverty. Sure. So the number one variable for getting out of poverty, for gaining literacy, is mentoring. And there are 4 characteristics that I found in my research with people in the deepest poverty that their mentors exhibited that enabled them to get a bachelor's degree. One was someone who was making it, believed in me. They didn't judge me. They understood that I was doing what I needed to be doing. They taught me I wasn't stupid, that what I already knew was valuable, and that gave me hope that I had something to build on. And they connected me to other people who could help me in other areas of my life. Maybe you're tutoring me with literacy, but you connect me to someone who can help our family with housing. That's it. Believing in someone, helping them see they know some things, not judging, and making connections. Anyone can do that. That constant pelting of something's wrong with you, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with you, it steals your hope and your confidence to a point where you just start subsisting. You're not existing. It's not about what will I do tomorrow. It's like, how do I get through the day? So there was this psychological study where they built 3 wooden boxes and they put a maze in the box, and the mice had to figure out how do you get through the maze to the cheese. In the first box, they bumped into walls, but they got there. Second box, they bumped into walls, and the researchers said, we're going to shock them if they bump into a wall and see how it affects behavior. So they would touch the wall, zap them, knock them down, and it didn't take long before these mice stopped touching the walls. The third box, they said, let's shock them no matter what they do and see how it affects them. So these mice would start out, the floor would shock them, knock them down. The wall would shock them, knock them down. They'd be shocked from above. No matter what they did, they were getting shocked and knocked down. And they discovered these mice would curl into fetal positions, and they would stop trying and die a short distance from cheese. So when people tell me, well, we gave them opportunities and they didn't take it, I say, you got a curled up human being. You got a human being that is so beaten down by that evil villain poverty they can't function. And with those folks, with these folks, I would start with rebuilding the hope. I would start with showing them, you're not the problem, poverty is. Your personality and choices are not the problem. You can make choices all day long. You ain't got gas, you ain't getting there. And I do that. I do work with people who are right now in this situation. And it takes me about 90 minutes to change body posture from that shrunken, beaten down, some can't look you in the eye, to realizing that they're not the poverty. I help people separate themselves from the poverty. If you're in that isolated situation where you're surrounded by people who can't read and write, and someone does reach out who can and offers to help you, to show you what this word means, that's awesome. I mean, that is so helpful, and that can help. It needs to be combined with removing some of those barriers of hunger, not having a pillow to lay your head on. Maslow was kind of right. we need to have our fundamental human needs met to self-actualize. So one person can make a huge difference. A person who's tied to other organizations that can remove poverty barriers can change generational poverty. And people won't tell you they can't read because the shame of not being able to read is very similar to the shame of poverty, and you usually have both. So if you gave any of my family members who can't read something, a form or something they needed, instructions, and said, hey, can you read this? They're not going to tell you no, because there's a shame. Oh, no, I got this. I got this. So what I teach professionals is pay attention to nonverbals. Because if they say, no, yeah, I got it. I got this. They don't have it. If they say, oh, yeah, no, I got it, then they do. And then if they don't use nonverbals that show you they really are able to read it, what you want to do is say, you know what, this is confusing to me. Let me walk you through this. But you can take somebody. I could take these two people right here, get them into opportunities to learn, to read, to gain an education, to rebuild their hope, to start businesses, and to give back to their community. But it starts with understanding there are people who can't read. Yeah, I often get asked the question, should we help children, or should we, the little kids, or should we help the high schoolers? And I say that's not a question.
Or your age, too. I mean,
Yeah.
Please include that.
Yeah. So should we help the little children? Should we help the high schooler? Should we focus on adults, which most community college students are over the age of 25 and parenting right now? You've got a lot of parents who are going back to school trying to get a skill or an education so that they can take care of their families. And they're coming in with functional literacy, some not literate, but trying to gain literacy. It isn't an either-or question. We have to create communities where people have access at whatever point. Ideally, they never have to go hungry. I have one grandchild. His name is Sam, and I'm so proud. This kid's never been hungry. He's never been evicted. He's never watched his parents fight because there's no food. He's never seen people taken away by police officers. He's getting to develop that healthy brain. And that's what I want for everyone. But I see a 17-year-old sleeping in a skate park. And that kid, I talk to him and I say, hey, what's going on with you in school? And he says, I'm not good at school. I'm not good at school. And I say, tell me what really is going on, because I've been talking to you less than 5 minutes. I can see you're really bright. And he said, well, my teachers don't like me and I didn't like them. And I said, that can happen. I dropped out of school at 15. I got my GED at 26. And he said, 26? And I said, yeah. He said, no, it's just that I'm glad to hear that. I'm 17. I thought it was too late. And I said, no, it's not too late. You're getting a doctorate. Let's get you going. And I believe it. And that's key. That's key. You can't pretend. You can't know someone's potential. If you saw me at 26 saying ain't every other word, unable to write a sentence, with a bad perm from my cousin, homeless with 2 kids, could you picture me here? I mean, strengths perspective says you look at a human and you say, let's get you going wherever you are. Let's get you going. And I was privileged to have that happen, have 4 people who were making it come into my life as mentors and navigators, and connect me to the resources, the fundamental human resources, and to opportunity. And teach me that I wasn't stupid. That was a big part, learning that I wasn't stupid, that I knew some things, and what I knew was valuable.